So many times parents are just aghast at what has happened in their home because they didn't understand what was going on with their children. This can especially happen when they're hyper auditory. What do I mean by that, hyper auditory? That's when the ear is hearing, you can go get the audio test and everything, and it seems to be fine, but in their brain, it's amplified. It's like just really too much hyper versus hypo being not enough. They're hyper auditory. So everything bothers them auditorily. They can hear the slightest whisper on the other side of the door or the other side of the house that you're talking in a whisper and they can hear it. Well, they can't help that because that's how they hear. And they don't know any different. But because it's so painful, then oftentimes they just shut their auditory off unless it's something they're interested in. So, for instance, parents tell me all the time, I call them and they don't even answer their own name. And what I say is they've turned off their auditory or tuned in so, precisely to what they're watching that they've tuned everything else out. So oftentimes the parents are saying we treated that behaviorally. We thought they were just being rebellious or, not paying attention or whatever the thing is. And then there's escalation that's negative in the household. But it's really this hypersensitivity to sound. Now, there can be something else that's pretty confusing for parents too, and that's what I call tonal processing. Now, tonal processing is where the ear hears, but the brain is not interpreting those tones correctly. So words come out jumbled. They don't know for sure what you're saying. So there's this long pause in their reaction to saying yes to you when you've asked them to do something because they're doing this mental gymnastics in their head like, okay, I don't know exactly what that word was, but it goes with this. And oh, that must be what she means. Yes. And then they answer, what they can. But sometimes they don't do the right thing because they heard it wrong. So they can say yes and with all sincerity go off to do it and not be able to get it done because they heard it wrong. Now, this is different than the auditory processing that I've talked about before, where they're holding pieces together. It's a whole different thing, another symptom that can cause these negative things. But can you see how this can cause negative reactions in the family? Because they said yes, they went off, the parent expected it to happen, and they look around and it's not done. So, what I want to encourage you to do for this to get started, sometimes this can really help significantly, and sometimes we have to use this as a starter and then move on to some more sophisticated sound therapy. But when we stimulate the auditory nerve, it makes a huge difference in the way the brain is perceiving that. So the way you do that is you get the big ear-in headphones, like they don't have to be Bose, but you know what I'm talking about. The big ones that fit over their ears. And you start them out with about 5 minutes twice a day of Mozart. Now, why Mozart? Well, it's because he uses the highest range of frequencies, and we're trying to stimulate that auditory nerve that's right there with 9 other cranial nerves. And it really helps all of those things. They interface and work together. But when you stimulate the auditory nerve, then you start to normalize those frequencies and normalize that ability that the child has to hear too much. It comes down. So you start with 5 minutes twice a day. You keep increasing until they're doing about 15 minutes twice a day. Now, if you do that over 4 to 6 months and you're not seeing a difference, then contact us and we'll help you with a more sophisticated, like I said, sound therapy that can do the rest of the job. So I'd really encourage you to try that. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. Please subscribe and forward this to friends. We just don't know how many families are being affected by this negative situation in their home that they don't even realize is happening. I mean, they realize the negative's happening, but they don't realize why, and that there's something that can be done about it. That's what's the that's what I love about neurodevelopment, is we're solution oriented. So if you have any questions about uh, like ADHD, we're talking about ADHD, and this is one of the symptoms of ADHD that can cause some of the negative symptoms that are happening with them. So if you have any questions about that, you can give us a call. We have consults there on our website, brainsprints.com, and we'd be glad to help you and lead you in the right direction for help for your child. Our our whole goal is to be answered prayer for you and have solutions for your child and move them forward, releasing their full potential. So let us know if we can help.